Good morning. Welcome back to the Backpack Hack channel. And today I'm going to be enjoying one of my favorite trail meals, and that is trail apple pie. Now this isn't a piece of pie with 2 layers of crust with a filling in between that you're going to put on a plate. This is my version of apple pie that you can enjoy out on the trail. And this is a easy to make meal or snack, not only at home, but it's also easy to make on the trail or in a campsite because you use just one pot. Now I could put this in a plate and eat it, but that would just make me clean the plate. And I like this because it is a one-pot meal and you can eat it directly out of the pot. So if you're backpacking or hiking, this is a great snack or a dessert that you can have after a meal, and it's done in one pot and you don't need a plate to eat it. So it's very easy to make at home. Let's head on back to the kitchen and I'll show you how to put it together, and then we'll come back ahead here and I'll show you how to make it out in the field. Starts out with obviously some apples. You can use whatever species or flavor of apple you want. You can leave the skins on if you want as well. I prefer to take them off, and I just cut them into morsel-sized pieces. I'm not looking for consistency, just small pieces. And I put them in water just to keep them from turning brown while I'm dealing with them. Then it's just a matter of putting them on your dehydrator tray, spread them out a little bit, and they're ready to go into the dehydrator. Once they're ready to get all into the dehydrator, I turn it on for 140 degrees for about 12 hours, and they'll be all ready to go. Once they come out, they will not be hard and crisp like a potato chip. They will be soft and flexible and pliable like pieces of leather. So don't think because they're not hard as a rock doesn't mean they aren't dehydrated. But this is what 6 whole apples look dehydrated. Fits into one ziplock sandwich bag. And for long-term storage, I simply put them in my refrigerator. Now to prepare them for the trail or the camp, you start off with a half a cup of apples, some brown sugar, some confectioner's sugar. You can use granulated sugar if you like, but I like confectioner's sugar, and some cinnamon. You also need some breadcrumbs, and I'm not going to get into how to make breadcrumbs, dried breadcrumbs. It's just bread that I cut up with a pair of scissors and put into the dehydrator for about 10 minutes, and I've got breadcrumbs. You'll also need a couple of fold-over sandwich bags, as well as either one Ziploc bag, or if you want to put this in a vacuum sealer, you can use a vacuum sealer bag. And that's what I'd be doing here if I was going to vacuum seal it. But you just put the dried apples into the Ziploc or the dehydrator bag. Set that aside. And as for the breadcrumbs, I really don't have a specified amount. I just kind of grab some and say, yeah, that looks good. So we're going to put that into one of the fold top sandwich bags. And maybe get a little bit more here. And then we're done with the sandwich or the breadcrumbs, and we'll close that back up and get it ready to put back in the refrigerator. Now for the dry ingredients. You are going to need 1 tablespoon of sugar. And like I say, you can use granulated sugar, but I prefer to use confectioner's sugar. And all 3 dry ingredients will go into this other fold top sandwich bag. You'll also need a tablespoon of the brown sugar, and I'm getting kind of low on that. Looks like I need to go buy some more. And you can adjust these ingredients to your liking. If you don't want the brown sugar, don't put the brown sugar in. If you can't have sugar, you can use an artificial sweetener. But then you will also need a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. And again, if you don't want to use the cinnamon, that's up to you. You can always alter this recipe to your liking. This is just the way I make it. Try it and see what adjustments you want to make. But now we're done packaging all of the ingredients into their individual containers, and we'll set all that aside. I'm just going to take this baggie and give it a twist and then fold it over on itself so it will keep those ingredients all the way in there and it won't spill out. And I'll do the same thing with the breadcrumbs. Give it a twist and fold it over. And then both of those fold top sandwich bags will go inside to the Ziploc. And again, if you were vacuum sealing this, you'd put all this into a vacuum seal bag. And with that, you're ready to take your snack or your dessert out on the trail or to the campsite and enjoy it. All right, to prepare this out in the field, we need to make sure we have all of our ingredients, our apples, our dry ingredients, and our breadcrumbs. And we're going to start off with a half a cup of water in a boil pot or a pan. And we're just going to ignite the stove and bring it to a rolling boil. Once it's got a good rolling boil to it, we're going to put a lid on it, shut it off, and let it simmer for 10 minutes. Now you may have to do a second boiling of this before you add the dry ingredients, depending on the apples and your altitude and things like this. But once the apples are good and soft and edible, you want to add the dry ingredients. Mix those in, and we're going to ignite the stove one more time and bring all this back up to temperature. Get it nice and piping hot. And I see I didn't get my stove ignited, so let's try that again. There we go. Now we have heat. Bring it to a final boil. And again, it may take some experimentation for your particular recipe for this and your altitude and what kind of apples you have. But bring it to a rolling boil. Turn the heat off. Let it simmer for 10 minutes. And it's starting to smell and look really good. But we're not quite there. We need to put a crust in it. So we're going to add our breadcrumbs, which will be our simulated pastry crust. And that's going to soak up a lot of that water that's down in there. And again, you'll have to experiment a little bit. Don't just take my word for it. You want to experiment before you actually try this out in the field. But once you get everything down, you're going to have a nice apple pie tray, either a treat or dessert. I gotta tell you, I have to admit, tooting my own horn, this is good. And I swear, if you have a lot of people around you, they're going to smell that cinnamon, they're going to smell that apple, and they're going to come over and wonder what you're making. And so you can really impress them with this kind of a meal. You can also add some hot apple cider. That's really good to go with this. Not the only thing you could get to make this better would be some ice cream, but I think you're really pushing that if you're going to be backpacking to have some ice cream with this. But anyway, that's how I make my trail apple pie. Be sure to like, subscribe, comment, and share my videos. And if you give me a thumbs down, at least put a comment in the comment section below as to why. I see a lot of people giving me a thumbs down, but I don't know why, so I can't really improve my videos unless I know if I'm doing something wrong. So this is Backpack Hat coming at you with this trail tip. Try some trail apple pie. Be safe out there, and I'll see you out there on the trail.